Welcome to True Crime with Strategic Eyes.
Strategic back again. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, before I even get started, welcome to True Crime Strategic. I appreciate you guys for joining me today. I really appreciate all the support that we're getting on this channel. If you're new to the channel, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. You definitely want to be a part of this community. Why? Well, we're trying to cover this story and give you a law enforcement perspective. If you don't know, I'm an active duty special victims detective. I got to think about how I say that because, you know, YouTube moderators are like, oh, you can't say that S word. Yeah, okay. Special victims detective. I'm still active, still working, and I'm basically bringing you my point of view from an active, currently working law enforcement investigator, detective for a police department. So anyway, guys, we're going to be covering a lot today, ladies and gentlemen. And I got to say, one of the things we're going to cover this whole secret grand jury testimony. I hate when people say the secret. I don't even know why I said that. Secret grand jury, like the news is trying to sell it like it's like some kind of special circumstance or something. There's no special circumstance here. All grand juries are secret. This stuff is normal stuff, okay? They have an investigative grand jury. We do that all the time. I've got like 3 investigative grand juries open right now. I don't personally have it, but I'm working with my county attorney with 3 investigative grand juries on one of my cases, on 3 of my cases. 3 investigative, that's normal stuff. It just helps you get witness testimony more easily, subpoena people to testify, get search warrants. All that stuff is handled much easier when you're dealing with an investigative grand jury. So the way that the news is making it seem like is like this is something that's like super special, but it's really not. It's routine, right? And then after you get all the information you need, and then they're making big hay, like, but this grand jury can't file charges and get a true bill. No, it's not. That's not what its purpose is for. So, you know, they're making it seem like that's a big thing. That's not a big thing at all. That's, once again, it's just routine stuff that's happening here. After you get the evidence that you want, that you're comfortable with this investigative grand jury, then you go to a normal grand jury. And then they do their thing, and then if they decide that there's probable cause, they give you a true bill, and then you charge the person, you get a felony arrest warrant. That is how this stuff works, okay? But we got some huge news. Because apparently, the grand jury did what they're supposed to do in an investigative grand jury. They interviewed the record executive in charge of David. And apparently, when he left, he was so flustered that he spoke to his attorney, but he spoke too loud. There's no attorney-client privilege when you're speaking too loud. People can listen. Maybe they can't use that in court, but the public can listen if you're talking too loud. Apparently, he's talking too loud, and people heard some very interesting things that we're going to get into in this show. There's also something else very interesting that we're going to get into this show, and that's SF Investigates. Before I go any further, please hit that like button, support the channel. We need you to hit the like button so we can get into the algorithm. Please, 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 please. Now, SF Investigates is saying that he was ordered to come to court for order to show cause because apparently it's a contempt hearing. They're saying that he's in contempt of court for something. I assume that he's in contempt by talking about the case when allegedly, according to the county district attorney in California, he's not supposed to talk about it. And I don't agree with the county district attorney. I think I agree with SF Investigates. What I also found, which was very peculiar, and we'll get more into this when we get to that part of the show, is how he was served to show up to court. It was very disturbing to me. Now, I don't know SF Investigates. I don't know who he is. I don't know how he gets down. But I'm going to take his word for it because he's putting this on the internet. You can't really make stuff up about against people out here on these internet streets in America. He claims that they gave him some scratch paper. They just scribbled on some paper. Somebody in the chat said it was a napkin. And we saw the picture he posted it on YouTube, on Twitter. Report to this court. That's not how that works. That's not how that works. That is not proper service. So I think I agree with SF Investigates when he says that he's not showing up and he does not think that this is right. You don't scribble, report to court on this date and expect that that is official notification, especially when it's a contempt hearing? You're telling somebody that they need to argue their case as to why they should not be sent to jail for violating the court, and you just scribble a note to them? No, it doesn't work that way in America. This is not a banana republic. So if you one of those district attorneys out there and you watching my show, we know you watch. It's happened before. Our name has been mentioned in some pretty high-profile cases. District attorneys and defense attorneys trying to get the media throw out the courtroom like, we got people like True Crime with Strategic covering this. Your Honor, we got to seal these courtrooms because they covering this too good. We've already experienced that. So we know the county attorneys out there in California is watching. My advice to you is get your ish together. And don't forget, this is the US of A. And we have a constitution and we have a tradition of doing things the right way in our criminal justice system. We're not doing this banana republic stuff. You don't scribble on a napkin, hey, SF investigates. I mean, I would be surprised. I don't remember everything the note said, but it didn't even say his name. It said SF investigates. SF investigates. You know what? We going to court. Hurry. SF investigates. I command you on this napkin to report to the break room of the court so we can argue your contempt hearing. No, we don't do that here. We're not doing that in America. We're not doing that in America. You're not over here doing this banana republic stuff. That's crazy. So I don't think that SF investigates should show up. I mean, listen, it's not my skin on the line, so I'm not telling him what to do. I'm just saying, if there ever was a moment that someone should challenge the court and say, I disagree, I decline, hell no, where we at?
Oh, hell no!
I think this is one of those instances that you could do that because I do not think that their conduct would be able to pass the muster of any appeals court, any judiciary ethics committee, by that matter. If you want to bring somebody up on the stand for order to show cause for a contempt hearing, you better issue them an official court subpoena. I don't know what they doing out there, but they got to understand when you do this monkey business stuff, all you doing is making us as a general public lose confidence in your ability to run these type of cases. Now, they say that this lady that's out there that's running this case is a hot shot. I don't know much about her. I listened to one of her closing statements, one of her summations, and it sounded like it was dragged out. She was talking in circles. I wasn't that impressed, but I'm not an attorney, so who the hell am I? That's like me saying that I'm not impressed with a doctor. Well, guess what? We do have common sense. You may be the best doctor on the planet, but if you don't have no people skills, I think I got the right to say, hey, you may be a good doctor, but you suck as a people person, and being a people person is part of being a doctor, right? Well, I listened to this lady's closing statements, and I'm not a lawyer, but I've listened to quite a few closing statements in the real world and on YouTube, yes. And it certainly wasn't all that. She was aight. She was aight. Well, guess what? She's not going up against aight. She's going up against a proven hotshot that David has taken up as his attorney. So we don't need aight. We need the best. We need the best. And I don't know if she's the best, especially if she's subpoenaing people with pieces of toilet paper. She went to the bathroom and then she took a couple extra pliers and wrote that SF investigates report to court at this date. Put it in the envelope, licked it up, and slid it under his door. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Does that make sense?
It don't make no damn sense. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into all of that today. Let's jump into this. Once again, please hit that like button, support the channel. Got 163 people watching the show right now. Only 107 likes. We need those likes so we can get into the algorithm so that we can grow this show. We've been stuck at 100,800 some odd subscribers. Just stuck there for like the last 2 weeks. Can I get to 1,000? Can I get 100,000, 1,000 subscribers? It's hard to get true crime subscribers. This is a niche market, by the way. It really is a niche market. Like, if you talk about sports, you got like 1 million people who want to watch sports. Tens of millions of people. There's only a few special people who are into true crime. So we're all competing for that small group of people. So we're asking you guys to do your part to help us attract that small group of people. If I talked about politics, I'd have the whole world to cater to. If I talked about sports, the whole world to cater to. If I talked about negativity, the whole world. But we talk about true crime and we fight for justice for victims. Got a small group of people who are into that kind of stuff. So let's keep going, ladies and gentlemen. All right, David, record exec appears before grand jury. Why didn't you call police? Why didn't you call police? Didn't I tell you guys about this dude? Didn't I tell you guys about this dude right here? I think I told you about this guy, but y'all don't be listening, do you? How many of you guys in the chat be listening? Put a thumbs up if you listen. My wife is not going to be one of those people because she don't listen to me. But for you guys in the chat, put a thumbs up if you listen, because I can believe that I told y'all about this dude. I said, the guy in Miami that SF investigates accused of receiving that email, that's not the guy we got to look at. I said, I believe the guy in Miami when he said, hey, I'm the big boss. I'm in Miami. I got people that's with him on a daily basis. That's not me. I have nothing to do with this. I told you guys I believe that. I said, we need to look at Robert. I said, Robert is his handler. I said, Robert and that other lady, what's her name? Sarah, Suzanne, whatever, the lady from the Dark Horse Productions thing. I'll be forgetting these folks' names, man. I got a real life. I got to get back to. I got David's in real life I'm investigating, okay? I can't remember. What's the name of the lady? Lacey, I don't know, whatever her name is. Lacey? Yeah. I said, those are the two people we got to look at. I said, I don't know if they would be dumb enough to help him move the body. I don't know. Laney, that's what it is. But I said, they knew something. They knew at the very least, in my opinion, they knew he was running around with a minor. I told you guys that. There's no way that this little girl is not running around. You know, she got that bounce in her step. You know how the little girls got the bounce in their step? She's strutting around. Hi, everybody. They can't help it. I done seen 2 13-year-olds go through this house already. One is about to turn 18. The other one is about to turn 14. She's still 13. I know how they are, how little girls are before they get their maturity and they start thinking that they were little women. I know how they are. That's how Celeste was. You could see from the pictures. You could see from the videos. You could see from the way she spoke with David when she would sit there and they have their little online interviews and stuff like that. She was still immature. She was immature. There's no way you're an adult. You see this girl acting her age and you think, nah, she's 20. It's all good. Well, David said she's 40. Nah, she's 40. I wish it was that easy. I wouldn't have to be old, you know what I mean? I wouldn't be 41. I could just walk around telling people I'm 19. Doesn't work that way. They knew what he was doing. I feel that. They knew what he was doing. Did they help him move the body? I don't know. But they were in his life on a day-to-day basis. And apparently, allegedly, this guy lived with him for a little while. This guy lived with him allegedly for a little while. How do you live with a dude who's intimate with a young woman, little girl, however you want to say it? YouTube, have mercy on me. YouTube guidelines, got to be careful what I say. And not cross paths where you see them acting out that intimacy or even in unstates of dress. How's that possible? It's not possible. I believe he knew. Let's see what happens. The president of David's Touring Company was grilled Monday by a deputy district attorney in front of a grand jury on why he didn't call the cops. The question is, didn't call the cops to what? didn't call the cops to what? What are they getting at? What are they getting at? Let's keep going. A grand jury is hearing evidence in the death of Celeste Rivas. TMZ broke the story. LAPD's robbery homicide division is considering David a suspect in what it says is an apparent homicide. Interesting. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Look at this guy right here. He was drunk off that David money. That's the problem with these folks. They all get drunk off the money. You got to have a soul. What purpose is the money if you lost your soul in the process of obtaining that money? You got to have a soul. Let me go ahead and adjust this. There we go. You saw a piece of that wig. Let's keep going. Robert Morgenroth, the general manager of Mogul Vision, David's record label, is also the president of Zara Brothers Travel, David's tour company. You see how they all like eat? Like they all eat. So like he works for the big dog. What's the big dog's name, guys, in the chat? You guys are following this even better than me. He works for the big dog. The big dog is getting, the big dog manager is getting the money, right? Then he's the vice president, or he's the president, the general manager rather, of that company. So he's still eating. Then he has the tour company where he solely owns, and then he eats from that because David is using his tour company. So they're all just eating off this guy. Like their whole livelihood is based around the artist. And they're all eating in multiple ways. They're managing him. They're the record label guys. They're touring guys. You know, you look deeper, they're probably the caterers too. You look a little deeper, they probably are renting him the cars that he's driving around. You look deeper, they just all eating. It's like just eating each other like carnivores. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Josh Marshall, there we go. So he works for Marshall, but at the same time, he's his own boss when it comes to the touring angle. It's crazy. Let's keep going. But why am I harping on that? Because I want that to sink in your soul to understand there's an incentive not to do the right thing. There's an incentive not to call the cops. There's an incentive of self-preservation that they have to think about that will make them complicit when they should not be complicit. They should be acting with morality. Let's keep going. We've learned Morgenroth testified all day Monday before the LA grand jury. At one point, with half a dozen people in the hallway, Morgenroth came out into the hallway and was talking to his lawyer loud enough so others could hear. He said, referring to Beth Silverman, the deputy DA presenting the case before the grand jury, she was very pushy on why I didn't call the police. Because this young lady right here, this beautiful young lady who had her whole life ahead of her, was not worth more than the fortune that this person was getting from David. This man right here with his ugly mug, guarantee you, if you shave that beard off, you're going to look like a pedophile. This man did not value her. That's my truth. You guys believe whatever you want. That's how I feel. She was not valuable. Let's keep going. He went on to recount how he responded. I said, I feel like, listen to this crap right here. I didn't read this here, but I read this somewhere else. Listen to this. You understand why I say, oh, Strategic, you're so mean. Why are you so mean for Strategic? I'm not mean. I call it how it is. I call strikes. I call a spade, baby. That's why you're here. That's why all 300 of you are here. Want to hear me call a spade? Why did I say that? Let's listen. He went on to recount how he responded. I said, I feel like I didn't have the responsibility to do that and just wanted to continue with the tour. I didn't have the responsibility to do that. Didn't have the responsibility to value this young woman. She's replaceable. She's just another poor Latina from Lake Elsinore. We could find a new one of her any day of the week. In fact, David's running around with a whole bunch of clones that look just like her. Thank God most of them was legal, but some of them weren't. She's replaceable. She's expendable. I've got to buy a Bentley. I've got to hobnob with the rich and famous. She wasn't valuable, ladies and gentlemen. Let's keep going. We don't know the time frame of the tour to which he was referring, but David was on tour when Celeste's body was discovered in his Tesla, which had been parked near the LA house he was renting. This underscores that David is squarely in the crosshairs of LAPD and the LA County District Attorney. Let's keep going to the next one, ladies and gentlemen. This is just getting crazy. Let's keep going. Actually, let's see if we can play this. Maybe we could play this. Let's see here. Play around with it. Experiment. Hell no. Not gonna get me the copyright. A record executive who worked with David was reportedly questioned in front of a grand jury this week, which is a sign that authorities are building their case against the singer. According to report DMC published on Tuesday, December 9th, Robert Morgenroth, who serves as a general manager of David's record label, Mogul Vision, and the president of the singer's touring company, Zara Brothers Travel, was called to testify in front of a grand jury. During the hearing on Monday, Morgenroth was grilled by Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman, who presented the case to the grand jury. She was very pushy on why I didn't call police, Morgenroth allegedly told his attorney. I feel like I didn't have the responsibility to do that, and I just wanted to continue with the tour. It's not clear which tour Morgenroth was referring to, but David was just a month into his Withered World Tour when the body of Celeste Rivas was discovered inside the front trunk of the Tesla at a Hollywood impound lot. The car was towed to the lot after it was abandoned on the street near home where he once lived in the Hollywood Hills area. The rest of it is fluff on who David is. Let's listen to TMZ. Are they still doubling down on that frozen body? I don't know, but let's see what they got to say about this.
There is someone who is about to get arrested in the case involving the death of Celeste Rivas, and it is not David. We know a lot. Let me download you on.
I'm reacting to this raw with you guys. I've never seen this, ladies and gentlemen. Who, what, when, where, and how? This guy better give us something probative. Because I'm tired of these internet folks jerking us around. I'm an internet folk too, but I don't jerk you guys around. I go over the facts and the news that have come out. And then when I'm telling you my theory, I say this is my theory. I have no evidence to back it up. It's all alleged. These folks be throwing out these grandiose statements, and sometimes they don't deliver. But let's see if he delivers on this. And guys, before we continue, hit that like button, man. It's like you got to strangle people to give it. Let me not say that. No strangling, okay? It's like you have to pull teeth from people to just simply hit the like button. We only ask because YouTube tells us to ask, because it's the only way our channel will grow. It's the only way the channel will grow. Hit the like button. Let's keep going.
On what we found out. So this week, there has been a witness before the grand jury, and he is intimately involved in David's life, the singer David, who the LAPD and the LA County DA says is a suspect in what they believe is the murder of Celeste Rivas. His name is Robert Morgenroth. Robert Morgenroth is the head of Mogul Vision, which is the label for David. But more than just the executive, the general manager, he is a manager. He manages David, and he is involved in David's day-to-day life and clearly knows a lot. So on Monday, Morgenroth was in the hallway with his lawyer, and there were people around, and they weren't sitting or standing right next to them, but the hallway echoes, and it was clear to people around there that there was a conversation that Morgenroth was having with his lawyer, and he was recounting what happened inside the grand jury room with the prosecutor in the case.
Now, what I don't understand is why the attorney did not tell him, like, keep your voice down. That's why attorneys whisper and they cover their mouth. They do that because people can read lips, and they do that because what they have to say is confidential. You know, if that's my client, I'm going to say, hey, listen, nope, keep it down. Let's talk in the car. Let's talk somewhere else. Let's keep your voice down, whisper in my ear. It's amazing that this attorney is just like, yeah, so what happened, Frank? Yeah, what, Robert, let's use his real name. Yeah, Robert, what happened? Yeah, man, I was in there, man, and she was all up in my arse. I thought I was on True Crime Strategic Show. She was all up in my arse, asking me about why I didn't call the cops. I didn't call the cops. I was trying to make some money. I'm trying to get paid, you know? It was kind of weird that they didn't keep their voices down. But before we jump back into this, I got a big shout out to Tara, who gave us a 1 gift membership. Thank you so much, Tara. It's very kind of you and very generous. Thank you for supporting our channel. We want to welcome LKS to our recruit level. Thank you so much and welcome to the family. Paula Meso with 7944 with a 149 super chat. We appreciate you for supporting the channel, Paula. She gave us a nice rose. I like roses. I'm a softie. I like roses. Sheila gave us a $5 super chat. Says, hello, Papa Bear. Oh my gosh. That's what I call my son, Papa Bear. And he says, Dad, I'm not a bear. I've been calling you Papa Bear since you was a baby. Now he's 7. He's not a bear. I'm not a bear, Dad. I'm a little boy. Don't call me Papa Bear. Whatever. Well, I'm somebody's Papa Bear. I'm Sheila's Papa Bear. All right, let's keep going. And we got a $5 super chat from Bernice, who says, welcome back. If body wasn't frozen, how come the 3 different ticketers didn't smell the odor of the body 3 different times? Well, you don't know that they didn't smell it. They just didn't say anything. You know how many DOAs that I went to in my career where the person's inside their house, natural causes, no foul play, and they're rotting away, and it's the most foul smell on the planet, and nobody calls it in. And then finally, somebody calls it in, and then they say, you know, it's been smelling that way for 3 weeks. And it's like, well, why did you wait, 21 days before you called 911 to get a wellness check on this person? You know that's an elderly person. You know that they're sickly. You know, number one, you're not a good neighbor. You don't even knock on your neighbor's door to see how they're doing when they're elderly, But aside from that, you've been smelling death for 3 weeks and you just now called the cops. So that's a really good question, Bernice. But the answer is evident. We can't predict what those people smelled, and we can't predict how people react to those things. And neighbors did say, I just dawned on me, neighbors, this is widely reported, Bernice, that neighbors did say that they smelled what smelled like a dead carcass coming from the car, but they assumed it was a dead animal. Remember, this body was found in the Hollywood Hills, where every one of those houses are multitudes of millions of dollars. This is the last place they would expect that a tragedy and, such a high-profile, crazy, insane case would happen. They would never expect that to happen here. So their brains are going to go to the most logical conclusion, like, this is not a dead body in here. Oh, this is a raccoon. This is a squirrel. This is something like that. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, Bernice. Let's keep going. Back to TMZ.
Case. The prosecutor, Beth Silverman, according to Morgenroth, here's what he said. She was very pushy on why I didn't call police. And then he went on to say that he said, in response to that he said, quote, I feel like I didn't have the responsibility to do that and just wanted to continue with the tour. Right. Now, we do not know the context of this, but when the DA is grilling him about not calling the police, that has to involve a crime. You're not going to call the police because somebody didn't show up for work. Right. You're going to call the police if there's some kind of crime involved, especially since this is a case involving what the DA says is a crime. So we don't know what Morgenroth knew that would require him, according to the DA, to pick up a telephone and call the police. But there's something. And again, he was involved in David's day-to-day life. So, okay, there is more. There is another manager in this same company, and his name is Josh Marshall. That name may be familiar to you because Josh Marshall was the guy who leased the house in the Hollywood Hills that David was staying at. It is the same house that the LAPD raided pursuant to a search warrant just shortly after Celeste's body was found inside David's Tesla. We are told by law enforcement sources that that house and that search was really critical in their investigation. So Josh Marshall, who leased the house, who signed the lease, is part of the company Mogul Vision that Morgenroth is also involved with. Morgenroth and Josh Marshall are both managers of David. So they seem to know a lot about David. I don't know, we don't know, if Josh Marshall was called as a witness. I would frankly be very surprised if he wasn't. But Morgenroth testified for at least 3 days. We don't know if he was testifying last week as well. One other interesting thing happened on Tuesday. Morgenroth went into a courtroom that is next to where the grand jury was hearing the testimony. And along with Morgenroth, the DA, Beth Silverman, also walked in. Now that's important because
whoa, 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 whoa.
Oh my God!
You know what that means, right? You guys know what that means? Tell me what that means. I got 336 people watching this with only 222 likes because you guys hate me. And it's okay. I hate you too. I'm lying. I love you. I'm living like Jesus. I love you even if you hate me. Hit that like button. What does that mean? What does that mean, ladies and gentlemen? I'm looking for somebody in the chat to tell me what that means. Somebody said Hims is a bad boy. You guys suck. Deal. That's what that means. That means preliminary talks for a deal. That's what that means. Prosecutor leaves the investigative grand jury to go into an empty courtroom. They didn't go in that room because they had a judge in there. They went in there because it was an empty room. That means we got to talk off the record. That means we got to talk off the record. That means somebody's got a deal. That's what that means. You only see interaction with county attorney, district attorney, prosecutors, defendants and their attorneys like that, these sidebar kind of things, when there's a deal in place or a deal that's in its final stage of being finalized. Somebody has turned state's evidence. Now, do I have any evidence of this? Of course I don't. I'm telling you from my experience. Somebody has turned state's evidence. Let's keep going.
when there's something that happens in the grand jury where there's a dispute, for example, if a witness won't answer a question and the DA is pressing for an answer, if there's a stalemate, the DA can go to the judge and force the witness to testify, or at least get the judge to do that. We don't know if that's why they...
That's not how that works, bro. Because you can't just go into a courtroom with a judge. Judges don't sit there waiting for you. You gotta take a break, adjourn it, whatever. You're not really adjourning with investigative grand juries. Just like, all right, get this person off the stand. Then you got to make an appointment with the judge. You got to get a hearing. You got to notify the opposing counsel, because that opposing counsel is going to argue against it. They need to have the opportunity to respond. This stuff don't happen fluid like that. I guarantee you they went in there to talk. I mean, it's possible what he's saying could be true, but my experience, that's not what I've seen. They went in there to talk. They went in there to talk. Ooh, boy, I don't know, man. There's a lot going on in this case.
He walked in, but both Morgan Roth and Beth Silverman walked into that courtroom, and when they did, we have a reporter who was down there who was in the courtroom, and the judge kicked our reporter out and closed the hearing. So something was going on about what was happening in the grand jury room, and it may well be there was some dispute over what Morgan Roth would or would not say.
All right, I don't know. He could be right, but I'm thinking that they're talking about a deal, that they're like finalizing a deal. They're hashing out a deal. That's what I'm thinking. But anything is possible, man. This is crazy. This is insane. There's a lot going on in David's world. David, just turn yourself in, bro. That's it. Yo, you had mad time on the streets. You had some fun. You got to play with Neo a little bit longer. Don't worry. There are many Neos in California. Remember, California's on the West Coast. It's right next to the Pacific Ocean. And if you take a plane from Cali to Japan, it's like 4 or 5 hours. Anybody been from Cali to Japan? How long is a plane flight to Japan, Korea, China? How long is that plane flight from California to one of those countries over there? Because that's what David likes. There's a lot of migration from Asia to California. So when you go to a California prison, there's a lot of Neos. There's a lot of Korean boy band looking guys in there. You will find a replacement, David. I promise you. Just turn yourself in, admit to what you did, and go find you a Neo in prison. I'm telling you, brother.
Oh my God!
Let's keep going.
But again, we don't know what that is. Now let's go to Wednesday, because this gets even more interesting. So I told you that Beth Silverman is the DA. Morgan Roth's lawyer is a woman by the name of Evan Janess. So this is after the conversation on Monday. On Wednesday, Beth Silverman, the prosecutor, walks out into the hallway and starts talking to attorney Evan Janess. And what we are told by people who are around there is that that Beth Silverman was very frustrated and said that she would have a judge issue a body attachment to a female witness that was supposed to appear before the grand jury, a witness whom Janess represents. Remember, Janess also represents Morgan Roth. So apparently this witness didn't show up, and Beth Silverman seemed frustrated, according to the people there, and said to Janess, I'm going to have a body attachment placed on this woman. And
that means that the police could go and arrest her and bring her to the grand jury to testify. And if she refuses to testify, they could possibly lock her up for contempt. So yeah, that's serious.
We're going to have her taken to court. That's an arrest, taken to court to appear before the grand jury. So we don't know if that woman also has a connection.
Who's that? Is that the Laney lady?
Morgan Roth.
I think that's the Laney lady. Is that the Laney lady? She don't want to come to court? She was standing right next to Celeste. Now, some people's like, this somebody in chat said, listen, there's no such thing as a bad theory. All right, we don't know. We are trying to figure this out. David has not been found guilty of any crime. He's innocent until proven guilty. He has not been charged or indicted on anything, okay? Let's just keep that out there, all right? I personally, it's my opinion, believe that David has something to do with Celeste. But it's still alleged, but I don't want people to get lost in the sauce, because we have some nice people who just have different opinions. Let's not get lost in the sauce that there's 2 crimes that were committed here allegedly. The first crime is a homicide that's being investigated. The second one, we have digital and video evidence of this man kissing on and being very close and inappropriate with a substantial minor. Let's not forget that. So people who want to support David, that's okay. I don't want to have a community where people can't have different opinions. But also be mindful that you might also be, at the very least, even if he had nothing to do with the demise of Celeste and somebody else did it, and maybe he just wanted to protect that person, not say anything, but he's not the one who actually did it. Be mindful that you might also be supporting a pedophile. Just be mindful of that. All right. And maybe that doesn't matter to some people, but it matters to me. All right. Because this guy was dealing with a very young girl that, by all accounts, he was dealing with her since she was 11 or 12 years old. That's what the internet trail shows. I'm not pulling this out of my arse. Okay. That's what we see. DMs and Discord messages between these people talking. She's like 11 and 12 years old. All right. And when she passed away, she wasn't 14. She was just shy of 14. Okay. Like, I'm just saying, live your life how you want to live it. I'm just saying.
who is again represented by Evan Janess. So there are a lot of connections here. Connections between Josh Marshall and Morgan Roth, both of whom were really intimately involved in David's day-to-day life. And then you have this female witness who may be involved with Morgan Roth as well, because the same lawyer represents both of them. And you've got a
I think that's that Laney lady, allegedly. I don't know. It may not be her, but I don't know. It seems like that's that Laney lady.
Situation where it sounds like not everybody is being fully cooperative with the prosecutor who's...
Listen, don't get me wrong. Like, there's other girls. There's tons of girls that was around David. But it looks like the people that we're hearing about who's testifying are the people who were the closest to David, both in his professional and business life. They spoke to Robert. The other person who's always standing next to Robert was not Josh. Josh was in Miami with his family. The person who was right next to Robert at all times was the Laney lady, that Laney chick. Why wouldn't they want to talk to Laney? They said it's a female that's not cooperating. I don't know. Was she from the Dark Horse Productions, Dark Star, Darkness, Black Magic? I don't know. I don't know the name of the company. I forgot. It's like it's a Darkness something. She don't want to talk. Let's keep going. Oops, sorry. Get that out of there.
Seems to be getting increasingly frustrated as the grand jury plows along.
All right, let's go to the next one. Woo!
The LAPD sought to seal the records of the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's investigation into Celeste Rivas' death. That order was sought only to ensure detectives from Robbery Homicide Division learned of important information surrounding her death before the media and the public. The order was not sought to undermine transparency. No other information will be provided at this time. I want to make sense of this new development, the grand jury, right? This idea of who may have testified. Let me bring in once again Colin L. Schmidt, retired FBI agent, president, CEO of Kronos Litigation Experts. Thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Let's start here. How much credence do you give to the idea that we really know there is a grand jury being impaneled, and that we testified in front of a reported grand jury hearing evidence in the Celeste Rivas Hernandez David case? And if this turns out to be true, this is someone very connected to the romantic homicide singer. Let's discuss. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Now, I have to say this real quick. If you're putting things out on social media, if you're in the content creation game, you might be wondering how we're able to share so many clips from all of these stories so quickly. Well, the answer is it's a secret. We use something called Opus Clip. This is not a secret anymore. This is an all-in-one to cut, create, and upload frames footage, and it even cleans up audio. It is so easy to use. You just visit opus.pro/sidebar. You sign up, you upload, and in minutes you have perfectly edited clips ready to go for TikTok, Shorts, Reels. Opus Clip is your...
Wow, that was weird. I couldn't find a tab. I was like, what's happening here? What is happening? I don't know. I can't stop this. All right, so we got it. All right, back to this.
In front of the grand jury right now, because it's definitely possible that this guy, Morgan Roth, was overheard and that he might be testifying in...
My moderator / research group says the name is Dark Room. Dark Room Productions. I don't know. I like darkness.
This case.
Well, it appears you have multiple data points confirming that there's a grand jury based upon the people who participated in the proceeding. So like you talked about the rules of secrecy, the DA's office and officers of the court, which happen to be robbery homicide detectives, are not going to reveal that information. And that won't, if indeed it is a grand jury and panel, it's not going to come out until after the indictment is filed. And then once the indictment is basically from the grand jury, and that will confirm all of these things that are going on.
If it is true.
All right, 1 second. I just want to address this super chat. Bernice said with a $5 super chat, says, please read Steve Fisher's tweet and explain. I never heard of a Schmurder home hiring a PI before. I know you will correct me. Yeah, anybody can hire a PI. We definitely are going to get into that, guys. So I've seen a few people request that inside the chat. That's part of this show. So we will be reviewing the Steve Fisher tweets in reference to this whole grand jury thing. All right, let's get back into it.
That Morgan Roth is testifying. Why would they want him to testify?
Well, I think generally speaking, in a violent crime, you don't do grand juries on the local level. You do a preliminary hearing, which means you would have a probable cause. You arrest somebody, and then you present your probable cause to a judge, and the judge would determine if you have enough probable cause to support that arrest. I think.
All right, so in California, that's how they do business. In New York, that's not how we do business. In New York, we do grand juries. We don't go to a judge for a probable cause hearing. We do grand juries for felonies in New York. So it's a little backwards over there in California. I don't know why they do it that way, but every state is different. This is what works for those citizens. So here you do the violent crime. We bring it to the district attorney, county attorney. They then bring it to, or we can arrest a person on whatever charge we feel that we have probable cause for. And then after that arrest is made, then it goes to a grand jury. And then the grand jury will decide the final charges for that person. We could do it that way, or we could go to we could do an investigative grand jury first, get all the evidence that we need, and then we go to an actual grand jury, then we get an indictment, and then we go get an arrest warrant for the person from a judge based off of that grand jury indictment, and then we arrest them. That's how we do it in New York. We don't typically use judges to determine if there's probable cause for an arrest or a charge. That's what they do in California. Just wanted to tell you the distinction between those two systems.
In this case, the grand jury was impaneled because they want to lock in the witness statements and have no surprises during trial. So I think,
so once you give that statement, like he said, you're locked in. And I said that initially when we heard about this investigative grand jury. I said part of that is to lock in statements because now they know what you're going to say. And if you substantially change your statement, then you could either be treated as a hostile witness or you could be charged with perjury because you're sworn in when you speak to this grand jury. So if you change your statement significantly, and it's not like, hey, my memory changed a little bit, I remember more facts or something like that. No, you like diametrically change what you have to say. Like, nope, didn't happen. And then you said it happened initially, but now you say it didn't happen, they could charge you with perjury. Just keep going.
It's a very effective legal strategy because you're going to basically have your trial, know what all these people are going to say before you have to put them out in the public. But in terms of that person testifying, if he indeed testified, like I said, it won't be confirmed until there's an indictment. I think having him there as a witness is logical because he was interacting with their person of interest throughout this whole process, and he is going to have some explaining to do if he indeed understood there was a crime, because there's another law, at least in the federal system, called misprision of felony, which means if you knew there was a crime and you took efforts not to report it, that puts you in some sort of legal jeopardy. So this case is starting to kind of come together, and I think it appears that there may be an indictment here shortly.
You mentioned what potential liability could be there if someone knew about a crime and didn't.
Oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, I have to apologize to you guys. 419 people in the room. You guys see me playing the phone? Guess what? Warrant Squad picked up one of the bodies I was investigating, a serious ex assault, and they found the guy, and so now they're bringing him into my office. So I got to leave. I got to go down to work and process this body. So I really do apologize. I would like to stay, but I can't. I really have to get dressed, head down to work, and start doing what I got to do. All right. So we're going to have to end this here. We'll do a part 2. Today is Thursday, so today is my last day of work. So tomorrow I'm off, and we can rock out. Hold on, it's my daughter. Give me 1 second. Sorry. That was a daughter emergency. I need $60, Daddy, please. I got 2 detectives calling me like, yo, you got your body here. You coming down to process this dude? And then I got my daughter like, hey, I need some money. All right. So anyway, yeah, this is a serious case. So definitely I'm happy. Even though I have to leave you guys early, I am happy because I've been looking for this guy. This guy's a really bad guy. He did something really, really bad. Of course, I can't talk about it because it's still an open and active case, but just know that this is a beautiful thing for the community that I serve. It's a beautiful thing for all of you because, you know, we live in the United States of America. It's nothing to stop these baddies from getting on a bus or a plane and ending up in a community near you. You know what I mean? So I got to go handle that business, man. I'll see you guys on the next one. I see where we left off. I'm not even going to shut down my computer. I'm going to put my computer to sleep so that when we come back tomorrow and I boot it up, it'll be exactly where we left off and we can continue where we left off. I'll see you guys on the next one. Look out for that part 2, ladies and gentlemen. Strategic is out of here. Peace.